It says we're live. Okay. Well, as we can tell, when you're producing and doing your own thing, you can screw it up. Anyway, welcome to another exciting, fun-filled, packed edition of Deep Recruiting designed to help you become a better recruiter and earn more money. And today we're going to be doing part 2 of our series of candidate control. Today, what I want to focus on is frame control. And I want to start by reading a definition. I don't know if we're live or not based on what I'm seeing here. I'm getting error messages. So we're going to wait and see if this thing actually does it or not. So I should be vamping here a little bit, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure if we're live or not. Anyway, we'll just go ahead and keep going just for fun. So what I want to talk today about is frame control and how frame control is critical to candidate control. Now, frame control is a concept in basically NLP or neuro-linguistic programming and social skills that it refers to the act of imposing your mental or psychological viewpoint on any situation and having that situation conform to your frame or your belief. It is one of the most important concepts of all the social skills we have and refers to the body of skills and attitudes which you control social interactions and your interpersonal relationships with. When you have frame control, people are playing by your rules. To establish frame control, you have the ability in which a situation or interaction is perceived by others. So there are really 16 key pillars of frame control. First one is your reality is what's best for you. Well, what does that mean? What is your reality? Your reality is what you perceive it to be. Your reality is, for example, I'll give you my reality is I'm the world's greatest headhunter. That is my reality. I establish that frame control in my mind and in every interaction. Number two, you're internally validated. By being internally validated, I'm not looking for other people to come along and tell me I'm doing a good job. I know I'm doing a good job based on my production, based on my stats, based on the revenue I'm generating. I'm internally validating. I tell people all the time, my ego is so big, it's simply self-sustaining. It simply feeds on itself. Number three, you're on your inner balance point. Being on your inner balance point is you are not allowing other people to affect your mood and your control. When I was learning how to sell, it was called not letting somebody else kick your cat. In other words, somebody kicked my cat this morning and that's going to color and influence my entire day. I don't allow that to happen. I'm on my inner balance point. Like Brad Lee likes to say, when I wake up in the morning, that's worth more than $10 million. He likes to ask the question, if I gave you $10 million, but the price is you couldn't wake up in the morning, would you take it? Well, of course, the answer to that is no, because what good is that money to you if you can't spend it, if you can't enjoy it because, well, you can't wake up. So being on your inner balance point is absolutely critical. Number four, you don't really care what other people think of you. I'm wearing a black shirt today. I actually have a guest who's off camera that I'm going to be introducing a little bit. But if she didn't like my black shirt, I don't care. I like it. I like the way it looks. I have a shaved head. I like it. I know that a lot of people don't. I know that it turns a lot of people off. I like it because it makes my life better. And frankly, I think it's one of the better hairstyles I've had in my entire life. I call it my pat and go hair. I pat it with a towel and I'm ready to go. It's also convertible ready hair. Number five, you're a good communicator. I think I'm a good communicator. Am I a great communicator? Every day I'm working on getting better at it. You can see my communication skills right here on the podcast. I have the confidence that my communication skills are good enough that I'm going to do this podcast. I'm going to do this live, even though I'm going to make a bunch of mistakes like I did at the very beginning of this one. But I try to approach it with humor, and I feel I'm doing a good job. Number six, you need to be charismatic. A lot of us probably fall down on this. I'm going to let my compatriot here, my guest, actually make a comment on charisma. Hi, Tori. This is Tori Sonkin. She's actually an intern here at my company. Let's talk about charisma. How do you know when somebody's being charismatic or not being charismatic? How would you make comment on that?
That's a great question, to be honest with you.
I hope the microphone's catching you.
Hey guys. So a lot of people, you hear the saying of like, you're born charismatic or you're just a charismatic person. But I think a lot of people can learn how to be charismatic. So,
Absolutely.
and what I mean by that is when people truly are themselves, I know you're going to get into that a little bit later, you're drawn to that person. Charisma, like baseline, is somebody that you're drawn to, but you can't ever understand why that is. But how I view it, it's their aura, how they present themselves, how they view themselves. That's all part of who they are and that aura that they portray. So I think when somebody has that charisma, they're confident in who they are as a person, and that's what's portrayed, and that's why people are so drawn to those people. And the only way they know how to describe it is that they're charismatic.
That's exactly right. When I see charismatic people at a party, they're so easy to spot because they're the person that everybody gravitates to. If you're not being gravitated to in a party, in a social situation, you should be studying the people that are charismatic and what makes them charismatic. Here's a quick tip on that. There's that communication thing. Asking questions of other people and smiling and making good eye contact, those are going to be the simplest ways you can actually improve your personal charisma. Number 7, you're very lighthearted. You don't come in angry to work because traffic was bad. I actually had an amazing commute this morning. My commute this morning was about 15 miles. And in that entire time, I hit one red light, no highway. I was amazed. I've never done that before when I've made this commute. The best I've done before is 3 red lights. The worst I've done is probably close to a dozen or more. And that adds around 15 to 20 minutes to my commute, all those little stops. But today was just one red light. And I only sat there for 10 seconds, might have even been less. And so I immediately texted somebody who's very close to me, all excited about that. And that lifted my spirits for the day. But I would have been lighthearted anyway, because I know that everything here is a lot of fun to do. I'm excited every single day when I get up. That makes me very lighthearted and high in spirit. And that is one of the key pillars to frame control. Number 8, you're full of dopamine so you can think on your feet. Believe it or not, the more dopamine you have, the easier it is for you to think and engage in some of that mental parkour and verbal agility that gets you through things. Number 9, this one's very, very, very important. You always keep your word. You need people to be able to trust you at your word, what you're saying and what you don't say and what you even imply. All of that's critically important. Any thoughts on that, Tori? Tori's new to the business world, so she's kind of got those child's eyes towards some of this stuff.
I haven't seen what you've seen yet, so I still have some light in me.
Sooner or later, you'll run into
it. Hoping later, but I will say something that I always tell people. I don't know if it's a lot of people my age or if it's just me, but a lot of people are all talk and they don't do. I really respect people that are doers, and what I mean by that, sometimes they don't even say what they're planning on doing, but they just do it. And if they fail, they fail. If they don't and they achieve what they wanted to, their actions speak louder than their words. And so I think being able to keep your word not only gives you the respect from other people, but it's also respect to yourself, because you told yourself you're going to do something and you keep your promise and you prove to yourself that you're able and capable of doing the things that you can do, and you're not all just talk.
Right. A great example of that in our business is, when you're selling a client, a brand new prospect on the services you have to offer, and you fall short and you make a mistake and you don't deliver on that promise, you have to own that mistake. When you own that mistake, you're actually controlling the narrative of what's actually happened. We all make them. let's just assume, for example, the company, your client requires that you conduct a background check. And for whatever reason, your candidate starts without that background check having been conducted. Somebody dropped the ball. You got to pick up the phone. You not a text, not an email. You've got to pick up the phone. You've got to call your client and tell them, this is what happened. This is our mistake. We own it. We're going to do whatever it takes to make this right. And then you've got to follow their instructions. So maybe you bungled something up front, but as long as you own that mistake, people will still trust you because they'll still see you as a professional who keeps their word. And you need that to establish frame control. Number 10, you're a natural leader of others. Again, when you're at a party, you can see this. It's the same person that's charismatic. The charismatic person is always the person who has people around them. Can you give me an example, Tori, of a charismatic leader in one of your classes, without giving names, without giving anybody away, somebody who's just magnetic that everybody was drawn to in one of your classes? Tori goes to UT Dallas, by the way.
I do. Fellow Comets. Actually, in my 4 years going to UTD, there was one person that I met last semester. And this person was just
no names,
keeping it quiet. But everybody was just always drawn to them. Not only were they confident, they were passionate, they were very forward and meaningful with the way they spoke. And I think a lot of people, even if they didn't realize it, they were really drawn to this person. Every time he had spoken in class, everybody just got quiet and listened to what he had to say, So it was honestly something I observed, and it was really interesting to learn from this person, and the way that the whole room just went silent every time he had something to say. It was
wow.
Honestly,
That's impressive.
It was cool.
And you said something that is not on my list that I think actually would add to the pillars for frame control, and that's passion. People that are passionate about a certain topic tend to be naturally charismatic about that topic. They tend to be a leader on that topic when they're talking about that topic. So when you express passion about what you're doing, you are going to be establishing frame control. Let's see, that is, we're on to number 12. Let's scoot this along. When you see that person's frame and you know how and when to flip it on them, you see it on TV with politicians all the time. A reporter might ask a question and the politician will take the frame away from the reporter and reframe it in their context. The easiest way to do that is to look at politicians that get interviewed. Most of the ones on a major network are very well versed in this type of activity. And it's just a great example of how to observe it, how to manage it. Another mechanism for frame control is you are leading your prospect, your client, your candidate in the way that they want to be led. You're establishing the pacing, you're establishing the steps and how things are going to play out. That's going to give them comfort that you know what you're doing. And when they have that comfort, they're going to be much more likely to give you control over the frame. Number 15, since we added one in there, you're always in the energy that is natural for you. As a man, I'm always going to be in my masculine energy. As a woman, Tori is more likely to be in her feminine energy. When she's in her feminine energy, she's more likely to have frame control and more likely to be able to control the conversation. When I'm in my masculine energy, I'm going to be more likely to control the frame of any conversation that I'm involved in. Number 15, you don't take out whatever bad things have happened to you on other people. When you're interviewing a candidate and that person is really negative about other people or worse, you don't just allow them to abuse you like that by doing that complaining. You basically have to tell them, yeah, that really doesn't fly with me. Let's go ahead and call it. Good luck in your search. You need to be prepared to walk away when other people are giving you their grief, because you can't allow that grief to intrude upon your day. It lets that person know that you are not like all the other order takers out there, that you're not going to bend your process to accommodate them. They need to accommodate your process. And the last one I want to cover here is being unapologetically who you are. This is kind of the same as being in your energy. You need to be the same person when you're interviewing somebody or you're talking to a prospect that you are just in general. Those need to be the exact same person. People can feel that genuine energy. They can feel that genuine flow. They respond to you when you're being a genuine human being. And those are I started with 16 and we added one in the middle, 17 key pillars to frame control. Tori, would you like to add anything else or ask any questions that I can muddle through?
There's a lot of things.
She's being put on the spot and doing really well, by the way.
I'm trying.
It's part of our internship here is just throw them into the fire.
It's great. We're learning. No, genuinely, I think this was great. I think a lot of people get so wrapped up in every day that they forget to really take a step back and understand these basics. I want to ask you, when was a time that you found yourself kind of fallen off and had to remind yourself of all these pillars to get you back on track?
I don't know about all the pillars, but I can, maybe I'll give you this example. This happened a long time ago. I interviewed a young gentleman who came into my office, dressed very sharply, kind of modern style, not a conservative suit, but kind of a modern suit for the time, had a modern haircut, well put together, comes in, sits down for an interview like this. And I tolerated it for about 30 seconds because I wanted to give him a chance to kind of self-correct. And he didn't. And after about 30 seconds or so, I just couldn't stand it anymore. And I told him to sit up straight. And he's asked me why. And I said, well, because it looks like you're apathetic and don't care about this interview. And his response was, well, I think just the opposite. I think it shows I'm very comfortable and in my skin, and this is just who I am. And I said, okay, that's fine. That's great. But the interview's over. I'm not interested anymore. And thank you for coming by. And he was shocked. So what he was trying to do was dominate me and establish the frame. And he kind of lost that battle. He was not in a position to maintain that frame. I didn't really care what his skill was at that point. I saw him as somebody that was going to be out of control, difficult to work with, and I simply just wasn't interested in a person like that. Maybe an example, I don't know if this is the example you're looking for or not. There was another one where I went into the interview room and I immediately pegged the candidate as being very, very, very meek, very mild, and very soft-spoken. Now, here I am, this boisterous, loud, outgoing guy, and she was a little itty-bitty, tiny church mouse, and I did my absolute best to soften my tone, speak to her quietly. I was easy on my eye contact. I didn't ask her any tough questions. I really, really, really dialed it back. I dialed it back to the best of my ability. There was no way I could have dialed it back any further without going to sleep. And 30 minutes after the interview ended, I got called on the carpet by my boss. And I was told that I had been out of control in that interview and overly aggressive. And I was flabbergasted. And I realized that, sometimes you just can't connect with somebody. There's nothing you can do. I had literally tried my best to control that situation, and I couldn't. So, this happens to the best of us. I'd rather just be in my genuine energy and connect with the people that the good Lord means me to connect with and not worry about the rest, because I'm going to be more successful and more productive. Does that at all answer?
No, I mean, it did. I wanted to know examples where you've had to use and reframe and
well, there's one where I certainly failed. That's for sure.
failure's part of the process. So
Yes, it is. Anything else I could stumble through for you?
let me think. I mean, I guess what advice would you give somebody that's trying to kind of figure out their own frame?
Wow, that's an interesting question. First off, acknowledge who you are. Who you are in the process, what you want out of the process. Set a goal. What do I want this person to believe about me? And is that belief going to be congruent with who I genuinely am? It'd be ridiculous for me to establish the frame that somebody is going to see me as very, very easygoing and not a very passionate, high energy guy. That is because that's incongruent with who I am. That's as incongruent as me having, a big bouffant hairdo. It just doesn't work, right? So I need to that would be, I think the first step is I need to set a goal is what do I want people to believe about me that's going to be genuine and sincerely who I am? And then I'm probably going to do positive affirmations every day. I'm going to write down 7 times in a lead number 2 pencil. This is how people perceive me in a positive way. So it might be written as people perceive me as passionate and very excited about doing recruiting. People perceive me as being a very successful recruiter. Here's one. People see me as a very successful podcaster. Working on that one, right? So I'm going to thank you. I'm going to do that every single day until I see that perception becoming reality. And I'm going to look at what these key pillars are. You can go back and review this podcast again. And I'm going to work on every single one. I'm going to pick one a day. I'm going to establish that belief I want them to have. And then I'm going to work on one of those 17 pillars every single day. Just one. I'm not going to try to worry about all 17. Just pick one a day and make that my focus until I feel like I've mastered that one. And then I'm going to move on to number 2, number 3, and on down the line until I feel like I'm mastering frame control. Until I feel people are coming into my frame. Barack Obama and President Trump both are masters at frame control. Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton, both masters of frame control. So if you watch them talk, when you watch them debate, you'll see how they manage that frame. And all 4 of those presidents are great examples of it. So both sides of the political spectrum, so nobody gets offended, or everybody gets offended. What else? Anything else? Shall we wrap this up?
I think that was great. No, you answered that perfectly.
All right. Well, thank you to my guest, Tori. Tori's an intern here at GTN Technical Staffing, getting the fire hose, as it were. This has been Deep Recruiting. We'd love to hear your questions and comments. Please email us at deeprecruiting@teamgtn.com. We're coming to you every Monday with a live stream at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to continue the topic of candidate control next week with some more tips and advice that you can implement to become more successful. Happy selling, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.